people drink when they're happy and they drink when they're sad. Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of Yip to My Yap. I'm still Erica Starr, and today I'm here with
Jennifer Roman Matito.
And today we are talking about warming up to entrepreneurship and all that comes with it.
Yes.
So just to jump right into it, when you hear the word entrepreneurship, what immediately comes to mind?
So I think that there is, a big kind of misconception actually with the word and term entrepreneurship, because I think immediately, even for me, it's almost like glamorous in a way. It's like it's wealth, it's success, it's boss. It's really just somebody who's had multiple businesses or been a mogul. And I now, as an entrepreneur, think of it very differently. But that was kind of my unexperienced understanding of just the term entrepreneur. And I think for years, I always thought that like it sounded cool and like it was some sort of like status symbol to call yourself an entrepreneur. But really like what entrepreneurship looks like, it's kind of like the Instagram versus reality. What it looks like to the world is not what it feels like to the entrepreneur.
Yeah. And so what was that moment like when you decided like, I want to be an entrepreneur? This is what's for me. Was that something that when you were younger, you were just like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be a businesswoman. I want to, lead my own life. Or was it more of something where, 9-to-5 life, or maybe, had a different job and something switched and you were just like, okay, wait, my whole life is going to change?
Well, personally, like entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneur wasn't something that I was like always dreaming about. And it was like, I had this passion to be my own boss and run my own business. That was never me, actually. That was something that happened to me in my like third career in my life.
Okay.
And it was with a very particular idea and concept. Maybe this is a good time to introduce that. So here we go.
Word from our sponsors.
Shout out to our sponsor. But yes, so for those of you watching and those of you listening, I'll hopefully do a good job at explaining. But Mother's Milk is my company, female founded by native New Yorkers. It is a coconut water cocktail RTD, or ready to drink. Simple, clean ingredient. There's no added sugars. We are naturally flavored. It is vegan friendly and it is gluten free, but it is a true cocktail in a can, 9% ABV vodka. So the entire concept behind Mother's Milk started when ultimately me and my business partner, Christy Kish, what we wanted to drink didn't exist in the market. So we created it. And we really kind of had this light bulb moment. And I think that's where the entrepreneur bug bit me is my business partner in particular. She just got creative one day. And we spent years in hospitality in New York City, both of us. So I have done everything in hospitality from, cashier, hostess to running a restaurant. And I ended my career actually running the events department for Hotel Group and on the F&B side and sales and operations side of things. So really, we were together one day, me and my business partner. We were celebrating my husband's birthday, actually. We were upstate in the Catskills. We had this beautiful house that we had rented for the weekend, and there was a fresh garden of herbs there. And so she had picked some fresh mint and we had some fresh shiso leaf. For those of you who don't know what shiso leaf is, it's kind of like the Japanese version of mint. It's a little bit more earthy and herbally than mint, less sweet. And so my business partner just got really creative. And so she muddled a little bit of mint, muddled a little bit of shiso leaf, poured it with some coconut water and vodka and served it to me. And coconut water and vodka had been what we call our remedy drink for a while. We were drinking coconut water for our hangovers, which is the number one hangover cure. It's naturally occurring electrolytes, which is definitely what you need when you're hungover. And so we were just kind of colliding the two worlds of coconut water, which is great for you, and vodka. And she, this one day in particular, just got really creative. And when she served it to me after I tasted it, I literally looked at her and I was like, we should can and sell this. Like, that was delicious. And so to even cap that off, as the day started going on, I kept telling her, I was like, make us another one of our remedy. Make me another one. And she kept, there we go. Coconut water vodka, mint chisa leaf. And at one point I kept telling her how the coconut water is like actually invigorating me. It's waking me up. It's energizing me when alcohol can actually make me feel really heavy. And I was like, it's giving me life. And she looked at me and she goes, oh, honey, it's mother's milk. And I was like, that's what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
And so all in a matter of a span out a few hours, I had this idea to just can it. And then this idea to name it that. And so about a year and a half after that moment, we actually had cans in hands.
That's nuts. A year and a half?
Yes. I think in CPG, which is consumer packaged goods, that's a really fast timeline. People spend years in ideation and formulation and then packaging, and we knew exactly what we wanted. My business partner is all things creative, so she designed the logo, she designed the can, all of the look, feel, and kind of brand aesthetic is all her. And then I'm all things sales and operations. So that's kind of our divide up. Yeah.
Cool. I noticed when, you started talking about mother's milk, there was a whole face and voice that was put on.
Yeah.
And I think that this leads us into a really important part of entrepreneurship, which is just like, what is the line between authenticity and just being straight up performative? And how can you find that balance and but find an audience that can still trust you even when they know like, okay, this one's a little bit more like high production in terms of just like the way she's speaking and how she's presenting it versus, let's say like an Instagrammer where you're just like, hey, just drink your mother's milk on a random Tuesday. Like how do you find that balance?
Well, I think to answer your question in a couple different ways, I think authenticity is key in 2026 in CPG, consumer packaged goods. It's really, really, really important to a brand success now. And that also has to deal with the fact that in general, I think people are less trusting of big brands, especially in F&B. I always love to explain, years ago, McDonald's was just dinner, right? It was just, we're going to grab burgers and chicken nuggets. Today, McDonald's is fast junk food. It's the last result. It's only when it's only when I'm drunk.
If it's the only thing that's open.
And it's open 24 hours and I'm craving a chicken nugget. So that's how a lot of people are actually thinking about food and beverage these days. They're not trusting the big brands anymore. And we know why, right? There's so many foods that exist that no longer are being sold in the European market for a lot of reasons, that are still sold in America today. And there's way less restrictions in America as far as food and beverage and processing of food and beverage. So with that being said, I think that there's definitely a lot of mistrust. So authenticity is key to launching your brand and your product.
Yeah.
When it comes to me, I think there's just a passion that exists within me when it comes to talking about my product and talking about my brand. And so I think you see like a little bit of a light up. Also, it's something that I've said 9,000 times, so I'm really comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And it definitely kind of like turns something on in me when I start to give what we call in the industry like an elevator pitch.
Yeah.
It's your quick rundown of who you are and what you do. And so I think that's one of the things for me that's really important is definitely leading with authenticity, but also leading with the passion that exists behind the brand, if that answers your question.
No, yeah, for sure. I think that's really important just because even when I can't lie, when I'm on social media and I see that somebody talks about something, it's like, it's never... What sells me never has anything to do with food. It always has something to do with something that I can see proof of, whether it be like makeup or clothing. Look at the quality of this, or look at how this eyeliner goes on, or like,
Massive.
Look, I'm going to put Sharpie on my face, put this cream on, and it's going to come off because it really gets in there. And it's really hard to prove because I never thought about like food and drink, like ever when it comes to that. I've never thought about social media and food and drink because you can't convey that. You can't say like, or show that this tastes good. So like, how do you even plan? Like, how does that social media process even look like? Like, is it all really just branding and world building? Is it colors? Is it the words that you use? Like, I don't even know if you've looked into this, but like, how does social media work? It's like the psychology of people to convince them like, this is something that you need.
Well, the one thing that I will say is that influencers really actually have the power to influence,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I will also say that social media is the number one marketing tool in the world, and it's free.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't actually have to pay to
Yeah.
use it. You have to pay for ads and boosting and things of that nature, but you don't actually have to pay to be on it. So you really need to, in my opinion, be super strategic and focused with your content. And we have got brand guidelines that my business partner created. And it's very specific to the language that we use, to the colors that we use, to keeping our grid looking a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
to attract a certain demographic and a certain audience. So I do think that it's really important to pay attention there. There's absolutely a strategy that goes in behind it, but there's no real key to going viral.
Yeah, for sure.
There is absolutely no recipe, blueprint. There's no math that you can do. It really like that is the sensation of going viral is it just happens and you don't know what's going to do that. So I think that it is important to be strategic, especially with a brand.
Mm-hmm.
But also like online selling has never been bigger. And what I mean by online selling is there's literal like live selling on TikTok. There's TikTok shop that is astronomical in the numbers that they're doing. They suck me in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what did I just buy? Why do I need this? But I need it. And so there's also Whatnot, which is an amazing live selling platform. And then what you utilize social media for is from a CPG standpoint, and alcohol in particular, because I can't just sell alcohol through Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You know, alcohol is regulated.
Yeah.
It's controlled. So I can't just do it the way TikTok Shop does. But what I can do is I can convince somebody that we are a better for you alternative, that we are female founded, Latina, Filipina founded. So we are a true small business. We self-funded this entire project out of pocket from Jump. So we can push our authenticity and our narrative in that way, which hopefully flips people into consumers.
There's so many things you touched on that I want to talk about, but but one thing, this might be like the farthest out, and then I'll find my way back in. I actually just had this conversation with my boyfriend earlier today. We were at Bagelsmith, and he had gotten a Celsius, and we were talking about just like, investments and how you decide what you want to invest in. I told them about like a coworker of mine who invested in Celsius way back, all this stuff, and how like we were thinking about like why did it blow up, and we started looking at the packaging. We were just like, well, when he grabbed it, I was like, you grabbed like a seltzer, like a alcoholic seltzer. I thought it was like a Cutwater or like a White Claw or something. He said, no, it's a Celsius, and I was like, that might be doing something. Like the fact that it looks like, a seltzer you would have. And also because people like belonging, people like fitting in. And you think about like barbecues and it's like, okay, everyone has like, a High Noon or something in their hand. I'll just grab the Celsius, I fit in, whatever, nobody notices anything. And I started thinking about Liquid Death. And then you go to like Gov Ball and stuff and it looks like you're drinking a beer. It's just water. And then I see like kids, like they were, what did I see? They were like 13-year-olds at Gov Ball. And they're like acting all stupid, like, oh my God, having a great time. Like I'm so like off it or whatever. It's water. They're drinking a bunch of water. And it's all just
in a
this whole
can.
thing about belonging.
Water in a can, yeah.
So I was just wondering, like, where do you see Mother's Milk fitting in the most? Like, who are the people that you're like marketing towards? Because even like when I see it as someone who like kind of wants to drink responsibly and still kind of like, like, yeah, I'm gonna have my little drink, but like I'm kind of also helping myself. Like I feel like the people who like to girl math a little bit with everything they do in their life, because me, like I can say I do that with everything where like it kind of makes sense, but it kind of doesn't. I feel like I would grab this and be like, but there's coconut milk in it. Like,
yeah. A lot of points here, but like what to invest in, let's come back to that.
Okay.
Right. But let's talk about just quickly, like what you're tapping on is RTDs, ready to drinks. Now the alcohol industry has kind of coined that term because it kind of isolates alcohol beverages as RTDs, but really anything that you crack open and that you drink is an RTD. It's ready to drink. There's no preparation needed. I do think that there has been some major changes and disruptions in the industry. And I would say Liquid Death is one of them. Liquid Death just made water cool. And they're literally like their tagline was like murder your thirst. They just like rode their brand identity and drove it into the wall, right? Like they just communicated so well who they are and what they're, and they're cool. And how did they like blow up? They were putting cans in these like skater boys, 13-year-olds' hands, right? And what they also did was in alcohol, you have on-prem or off-prem. And on-prem are bars, restaurants, things of that nature, clubs. And off-prem are liquor shops or grocery stores.
Yeah.
In New York State, spirits only go in liquor stores. And so what Liquid Death also did was that they really isolated the market of on-prem bars selling their water. And they really capitalized there. You know who else did that? Red Bull.
Yeah.
You go to bars, you go to clubs. I mean, I was like, when I was younger, we were drinking Red Bull vodkas.
Yeah.
First of all, why? We didn't need it. We didn't need it. What was wrong with us? But it's just like this big, and what Celsius, what brought me back to Red Bull was Celsius. Post Red Bull, right? There hasn't been a big disruption in that specific genre.
To the point that it got so normalized. It's in songs.
It was
like
just
you just
Red
know.
Bull. Yeah. And it's like Red Bull and Uber. Like you like call, like I'm ordering a Lyft, but it's an Uber, right? Like you coined that term. They coined that term in the energy beverage space. And then Celsius came around and they offered you a cleaner option, right? Less sugar, real juice. I don't know if that's actually all the real claims, but you know, like lower calorie. They did all the things to be a better for you, more wellness conscious option, which is also what Mother's Milk is doing.
Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. And it also just comes off way more tropical because Celsius is more of like, you know, you're going to go to the gym, that kind of thing. And like Mother's Milk is just more of like, it just feels chill. It just feels like relaxed, feels very islandy kind of thing.
I mean, we're promoting escapism. That's what I always say. We want to transport you somewhere. But in the most general sense, we are what we're calling a better for you canned alcoholic beverage option, right? You know, I will also say this is that like the FDA does not regulate alcohol. It's a whole separate organization and company called the TTB that's federally regulated. And you can put less on your can. So a lot of these brands don't lead with label transparency in alcohol. Why? Because they want to say less to not tell you what's in this can. And so majority of these canned cocktails are literally straight up fake ingredients, fake sugars. They would be, literally, you'll look at the label and it'll say real juice, real fruit juice. But guys, just know that it's like a thimble of real fruit juice, right? And so what we're also trying to do that's more of a standout, which is similar to kind of what Celsius was trying to do in the non-alc space, in the energy space, was lead with label transparency. And so we put as much as we possibly can on the can because we want to be as clear and concise with our messaging and communication so that way people know what they're actually getting.
So before you had mentioned that Mother's Milk is completely like self-funded, and you had told me before that, you know, it's hard when you're not already wealthy. You don't have like a circle of wealthy friends. You're not able to get investors just like, you know, at the snap of a finger. So how did you even start? Like, where does one start when it's just an idea and you're just like, okay, we're going to start a business. Now what?
So one of the things that I'm really lucky about is that I've had a good career. I had some cash put away in a bank account for a rainy day. And COVID, I actually was able to save a bunch of money, right? Because I was working from home. I really wasn't like traveling. I wasn't like going out for drinks. I wasn't doing all of that. So I was able to put some cash away. And so I was able to launch this business, me and my business partner, with our savings, with what we had. What we did was absolutely 100% the untraditional route. A lot of people tend to go into a round of funding, what they call friends and family, and pre-seed round, and you ask people to invest in your concept. Maybe you have a prototype of what you're trying to launch or bring to market, or don't, right? It's just a concept. We decided to launch ourselves and see what the response is. see what we can do. And so that's what we did. And I don't necessarily recommend that for everyone. It's definitely the more difficult route, but it's a route that we chose. And it was also during a weird time. And I will say this, alcohol is in a very weird space right now. There's a lot of big disruptions happening within the industry. But I will tell you the canned RTD space, so canned cocktails are the fastest growing category in alcohol, period. That was one of the statistics. True spirited cocktails are booming, and people are definitely finding themselves trying them more and more and more. But you tapped on earlier kind of what the demographic is that we targeted. We are definitely more of we're female founded. We definitely target women more. And that's mainly because, honestly, the consumer feedback, women get our brand immediately.
Yeah.
Mother's Milk is fun, it's cheeky, it's a provocative name. That was intentional, right?
Yeah.
We wanted to be a standout. And when women learn that we're vodka and coconut water, immediately they go, Mother's Milk, and it's just a moment and they get it. Sorry, men, but it just requires a bit more education for men. So we're definitely more female aligned. Our demographic is not the young 20, 21-year-olds, right? I know you're supposed to be 21 to drink, but like, let's be real. Like, I was drinking, right, at 19. So that super young demographic that like Beatbox and Buzzballs kind of really gears to, because it's really cheap.
Yeah.
It's affordable for
Four
them.
Locos
And they get,
and stuff. Yeah.
And exactly. Like when I was that young, Four Locos were our thing. So that's not our target demographic, because we are an elevated RTD experience and we're not going to be as cheap as that stuff. And that's intentional. We are also being really intentional about the new SKUs that we plan to launch. And so something that we didn't necessarily do with this, because this we knew that we are the target demographic for this particular SKU. And we're launching 2 more SKUs in the future, and we're still in the process of mapping that out. But what was really important for us was to align who is buying this and what category of beverage does it fit under, right? And so our plan is to eventually have an agave SKU and a rum SKU.
What's a SKU?
A SKU is within my portfolio of Mother's Milk, having different options to choose from.
Okay.
Right? So the way Celsius has an orange and then another blood orange SKU and then a grape SKU. I don't know if that's actually the SKUs, guys. I'm just giving them as examples. The way, Red Bull has the sugar-free and then the sugar. The way Cutwater has like, what is it, like a margarita, but then also has like a lemon drop, right? Those are SKUs all under one portfolio. And so our goal is to eventually also have an agave SKU and a rum SKU. So we're never going to be multi-flavored. We'll be multi-spirited.
Okay, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, okay, so it's not a flavor thing. It's like within this umbrella, these are all the different iterations of...
Normally you assume flavor, but but there's so many differentiators there that it's just all under one portfolio of one kind of brand and concept, but making tweaks and tasting and looking a little bit differently.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Cool. I don't know. Just learning little random things.
Thank you. Sorry. And, and also like stop me if I get too much in my language.
Oh, no, trust me. If I don't get it, I'm going to let you know. Like if context clues don't do enough for me, I'm going to be like, okay, can we pause for a second?
100%. Yes.
Okay, back to the funding though, because I was wondering this with everything that you said about like it being self-funded and you really being able to put it together between you and your business partner. So like on social media, at least, there's like this narrative that anyone can be an entrepreneur. Anybody can do it. You just wake up one day and it's like anybody can run a business. How true is that?
So I'm an optimist. And so I do believe that, right? Like I believe the way I look at it every single day of my life is if I can do this, you can. Truly. Like that's the way I look at it. Like there's no reason why if you have something conceptually that's different, you just have to figure out how to, right? And there's a million different ways to go about launching a brand and a business. Now, with that being said, I had a light bulb moment not too long ago, and it was a couple months back. And I'm sitting at a bar, Commodore LES, which carries Mother's Milk. It's a great location. I'm sitting with my friends at the bar, including my business partner. And one of our friends is talking about how, she just got this new promotion at this interior design firm that she works for. And, she's for years taken on clients on the side. And I was like, babe, you just need to launch your own firm. And I'm like, just do it. Just start your own firm. Like, get the LLC, start the name. Like, however I can help or guide you, like I will. But like, you're breaking your back for other people. Like, you should do this on your own. And she looked at me and she goes, Jen, because I think I was being really a little bit like, no, you should do this. You should do this. Like, really encouraging. And she looked at me and she goes, Jen, not everybody has what you have. And I was like, oh. And I told her, but like, if I can do it, you can. She's like, Jen, I just don't think that's true. And I've never thought about it that way. And then my business partner even looked at me and was like, yeah, girl, like, I don't even have what you have, right? And I do think that there is something. I don't want to put a name or a title. Maybe it's just a bit of grit, dedication, and just
drive, ambition,
and not being able to be told no, and just like, no matter what, pushing forward. And because let me tell you something, since I've launched this brand, I have literally grown layers of skin. Like, sometimes I'm just like, the way things used to like piss me off or get under my skin, now I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll circle back. I'll come for you later. It's a no for right now. And you just learn to take things not personally, certain things.
Yeah.
Not everything. And you grow layers. So the answer to the question, I know I'm going back and forth on it, is that I do truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that like anyone can do it. But I do also believe that like it's not for everyone, right? My husband, he ain't made for this life. Love that man to death. But he's actually one of the reasons why I've been afforded the opportunity to even do this business, is because he's got the cushy hospital job. He's a surge tech at NYU. Shout out to NYU Orthopedics. They're doing God's work over there. And his stability.
Yeah.
I got my medical benefits. You know what I mean? We got a pension. And his union job allows me this chaotic world that is entrepreneurship.
So I feel like, every time we speak, I feel like I make 3 points and then you respond to them and you make 3 points, I respond to them. But I have a story much like what you just said about like, wanting, like telling someone like, you can just do the thing. Like, you could just start your own business, because I had a friend way back when, and she always had like a different little side gig that she was really good at.
Yeah.
It was like when like strawberry, like making chocolate covered strawberries was a thing. Like, she was making the cool ones though. Like, she was connecting marshmallows to pretzels to strawberries and making shapes. And she's been artsy since we were kids. Like, I knew her since kindergarten. She had always been that way. So there was this one day I was talking to her and I had asked her like, what happened to, your strawberry business? And she had said, oh, like I just I stopped. I fell off with that, but I started doing people's nails. And with the same creativity and the same, just spunk and everything that she did the pretzels and strawberries and all that with, she did the nails and they came out so nice. And I was like, why don't you just do both? I'm like, you can do both. I was like, if you have the time, like, maybe those are like alternating seasons. Maybe like high strawberry season is, low nail season. I was like, I don't know. Like, you just don't know these things, but it's like, you won't know unless you try.
But don't give up. Yeah.
And then she also had the 9 to 5. And growing up, she had always been somebody with like, who was like determined. She was good with her grades. I know that she has a discipline to some degree. So I was like, why wouldn't you do it? And same thing. She looked at me, she was like, Erica, like, what word did she use? It wasn't ambition. It was like, she was like, I don't have the hustler mentality that you do. She was like, I can't do that. And I'm not gonna lie, it did something to me where I was like, I don't know if I want to be friends with you. Like, I can't. And there were a whole bunch of other things that contributed to that. But that, to me, that was like the last straw, because I cannot stand like wasted potential. Like, if I know that you're good at something, because I can't lie, if the strawberries were ugly, if the nails were bad, I would have been like, you know what, you tried it. I'm glad you got over it. Stick to what you're good at. But I hate seeing somebody be so good at something and then they just give it up. And I'm just like, you could be living such a free life. You could be doing so many great things. You could be doing Rihanna's nails. You could be doing Beyonce's nails, or you could be making strawberries for, I don't freaking know, like somebody huge. Like these things can take you so freaking far. And she just didn't, I guess bite the bait or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it kills me. So I get it when, you're just telling people like if I could do it, you could do it. Same thing like for this podcast. And there's so many people who are like, oh, I want to start a podcast, and would you give me tips and pointers? I'm like, of course. I don't do gatekeeping. Like, there's room for everybody.
Yeah.
And, they start on their first, their second, and then I'm like, where's the next episode? Where's the next one? They're like, it was too much. And I'm not gonna lie, like, yeah, it takes a lot of my time and stuff, but I enjoy it. And if you had that same drive you had when it was exciting to you, I'm like, you can do it too. But
Yeah.
it's some people just can't. They just can't.
Yeah, no, and that's just the whole point is I do believe that everybody can and should, but I also recognize that not everybody has the wherewithal that comes with, also just starting something new and trying something. And let me tell you, one of the biggest things about entrepreneurship that I tell people, and like when you mentioned like the no gatekeeping, like I've had people approach me, a few people, and be like, I just want advice, like blah, 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 blah. And I sit down with them and I'm 100% honest. Like I keep it 100. Right?
And it's gonna sound scary, but it's like, are you up for it?
Are you up for it? But also I want to warn you that the level of rejection that comes with this.
Yeah.
You have to be able to handle. Like that's one of the biggest things that I actually, again, back to like bringing it all the way back to the beginning, like one of the misconceptions about entrepreneurship is the glitz, the glams, the celebrations, the success,
the milestones,
all that. But honey, you know how many rejections you have to go through?
What did your
before you
biggest
get there?
no look like? Because the way you're talking about this sounds so like intimidating. Like, how bad are these no's?
I one no that really hurt me was there was this company and they invest in a lot of alcohol brands, and I really felt good about working with them and about them helping us scale, and then I, gave them samples of our product, and I was meeting with the guy, and then he ended up investing in another brand, and I realized, I was like, oh, he was just shopping us. They were gonna invest in the other brand the entire time. They just wanted to shop us to see what a potential competitor would look and feel like. And so that was one of those when you learned a lot from that, for sure. But that was just one. I mean, there's other, places that I go to, and I'm like, this location, this bar, this venue is perfect for my product. This is our target demographic. We match the like look and feel. There's just so many wins here. And whoever the owner is, whoever the beverage manager is or bar manager is just like, nah. And that happens often, and like you have to constantly be proving yourself. So I think that rejection is definitely one of the biggest misconceptions of entrepreneurship, and it's loaded.
Yeah. How long do you let yourself sit in those like sad moments? Because you can't deny that it's like, it's a bummer. But like when you have to keep moving, like no matter what, like this business is just you and your business partner. Like you guys have to keep it going. How much time do you allow yourself to just be like, damn? And it's like, all right, wipe the tears, let's keep it going.
I think it depends on the level of disappointment for sure. Smaller things I can definitely like roll right off and move right along. I think the bigger things you sit in for a little while longer, but I don't, and this is a conscious effort, is like I don't let myself sit in it for too long. But also on the bounce back of that is when I have a success, when I have a win, I also don't let myself sit too long in that either. On to the next.
Yeah.
Okay, great, check. What now that I've done that, now I need to level up even more. And so I think that like that comes with both the wins and the losses, where I don't allow myself to sit too long. I just have to figure out what the next play is and what the next move is. And I don't think that there's a time that exists on it, because sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's an afternoon, sometimes it's a weekend, sometimes it's a week. And I think that it varies, but I do think it's important with everything in life. like not just business, even with personal things. I think you have to allow yourself a certain amount of time to grieve, mourn, feel all the feelings.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of big feelings to be felt sometimes. I don't think that you should just push them aside and ignore them. I think that you actually need to feel them. And then you got to let yourself move on.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to push yourself to move on. But that's just in general how I feel about like dealing with big feelings and high emotions.
Yeah. Another question I have is like, how has your perception of time changed now that you're in like this entrepreneurial mindset? Because I've realized like anyone with a business, they want things happening fast. Everything is doable. Everything is possible. If like you could dream it, it can happen kind of thing. And especially with like it going from like idea to can in a year and a half, I'm sure that was like a dopamine hit that was like, all right, we're moving, we're going.
Yeah.
So like, how has, your perception of time changed since then?
I don't know if my perception of like actual time has changed more than I've learned that time is still valuable.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wish I had more.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's only 24 hours in every single day. I wish I had 28.
And what would you do with the extra 4?
I would hit a few more accounts. I would send a few more emails. I would have a few more meetings, and or I would cook a dinner. You know what I mean? Like it's just sometimes there's not enough time in every single day.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say that like my perception of time hasn't necessarily changed so much, but just how I value it has changed, and how I wish I had more of it has definitely changed.
Gotcha. And another thing, just bringing it back to like the beginning of just going into Mother's Milk and stuff, like what is something that no one told you about that as soon as you kind of like really got in, let's say like knee deep into the business, that you were like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, or I was not anticipating this kind of hardship or this kind of stress or this kind of like, thing in the back of my mind 21st. Like what was the thing that you were just like, no one tells you about that?
I don't think people are as forthcoming to train you or mentor you about how shitty people can be. Can I say shitty?
Yeah.
You can deal with some real assholes, like truly people who just like don't give an F. And like I'm a native New Yorker. I could handle some shit. But I also think that sometimes I am still surprised at how kind and polite I really try to be intentionally. And then people are just like giving you the finger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just dismissive. So I don't think that's specific to my industry. I think that that's business in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think that that's one of the most disappointing parts. But I will also say on the flip side of that is it's also amazing to see when you have allies, and how when somebody just looks out for you and just does a simple connection or intro or just makes a recommendation, those feel so good. And like having your community is also something that feels amazing. Like I'm a millennial and we are the drunkest generation. But also I think that that's actually a big change in your generation in particular. Well, there's a lot of different factors to that. I think COVID played a bit into that, a little bit. I also think that like, your generation in particular is just a lot more wellness conscious, focused, that just more intentional and understanding about what they're putting inside of their bodies and what they're doing for their bodies and taking care of their bodies. But I will also say that like the club scene in New York City is dead. So like I was clubbing because the club scene was fire in New York City and it was prime time. Yeah, I want to always say like 2009 to little like 2008, 2000 to 2012. I mean, it was unmatched. So I think that also plays a role into the interest, is that it's just not like, it doesn't exist in the way that it existed
Nobody dances.
before.
That's like our big thing. No one dances.
We all danced. Oh, we
Yeah.
all danced, honey.
Because the phones, the quality wasn't good on the phones, and even if they did, could have been flip phones. All that. It's just we're just scared of being watched.
Yeah, it's very different in
Yeah.
that way. I also think that like the younger generation, y'all have to be getting laid way less than we were because a little bit of alcohol, honey, and you are that liquid courage for sure. I don't know who I was talking to the other day, but we were just joking about that. We were like, Gen Z, like, how do you guys get laid? Because like you're not drunk, so. But I definitely think that that's like also a big difference in just our generations and like what we did. And that was just like the expectation was to club. You know what I mean? I also think that like there was a lot more opportunity to do that.
Does it scare you that that's the case? That like less people, or like less younger people are drinking, or because of your demographic that you're like aiming towards, you're just like,
It doesn't
fine.
scare me at all, and I'll tell you why. One, people drink when they're happy and they drink when they're sad. Period. Right? Like it's recession proof in that way. And I happen to fit into the fastest growing category in alcohol. I also think functional beverages in particular, coconut water is a functional beverage, has seen the largest spike that it's ever seen in the history of functional beverages, and it's only growing. It's not slowing down. So I think I have a lot of things going for me. I also think that like there is this big misconception about that. I do think that there is a generation that is not as quick and fast to pick up a drink as millennials are. But what I also see is that what I was mentioning before, which circles back, like there's a lot of mistrust in food and beverage. And so people are making different decisions, consciously choosing different food and beverage choices that our parents made for us, right? And now we're making different choices for our children and so on and so forth. We have the internet. We have more education and intelligence on how if you eat too much fried food, you're probably gonna have high cholesterol. And if you smoke, right, then you're gonna have lung cancer and have all of these other issues. And so there's just too much sugar, too much rice, you're gonna be a diabetic. And I don't think that those concerns existed for the generation before me. It started to exist for my generation. And so now the next generation sees it very differently.
Yeah.
You guys have the education for
I even
it.
remember like the cigarette commercials. There was like this whole thing. It was like truth.com. And it was like this whole thing where it was like, we're cutting down the number of young people who smoke by this percentage and this percentage. And then like by the end, it was like only 1% of such and such demographic smoke anymore. And I was like, oh wow, those things worked. And they were scary. There were scary commercials about like how terrible cigarettes are for you. And this is messed up, but when I was a kid, I used to make fun of the one about the guy with the hole in his neck who had to put the thing. And like, it was so ingrained in my head, like cigarettes are bad. And that like when it became a thing for the companies to put on the boxes that like they're cancerous and stuff, at that point I was like, weren't we always saying that? Wasn't that always a thing? But it was apparently like an outrage to everyone else. Like, why would you? Like, these are my cigarettes.
No, people used to smoke in airports, on airplanes, like in restaurants. I remember when they outlawed smoking at restaurants. We would go into a restaurant. It was smoking or non-smoking. And it didn't matter because the whole restaurant smelled disgusting anyway. So it's definitely communication. It's definitely education. So people are making different decisions, especially in CPG or consumer packaged goods. People are really making a lot different decisions now than they were years ago. And I think that that's great. So just to like sum it up, I think that we're in a great place. I think we're in a great category. I think we have a great product. I think we have a great brand. Our liquid is delicious. And it's just enough booze that like you feel nice, but you don't need 10 of them, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we offer a really nice a balance of an can alcoholic beverage product. So I don't worry so much about that because I actually think that alcohol has been outlawed. There's prohibition. It's existed. And, there have always been some sort of form of alcohol that has existed. And so I think it is a foolproof industry, I'll say that. But it's all about your brand and your liquid. Not a lot of brands make it. So you've definitely got to be a standout. But I don't think people are necessarily like drinking less. I think there was a major spike up during COVID, and then it went back to kind of normal numbers. But I do think that the younger generation is just making different decisions. So it looks very different.
Yeah, for sure. Because even when I do barbecues in the summer and I ask people to like to bring alcohol, because I don't drink like that either. But so like my rule is I'll bring all the sugary drinks, I'll bring all the snacks, the meats, whatever. You bring the alcohol.
Yeah.
Everyone brings White Claws, Trulies, High Noons. And I just remember when I was younger, you know, Hispanic family parties, it's Coronas, Heinekens, and Stellas and all this stuff. And I was like, people aren't drinking that anymore. Like, this is a very colorful cooler with all these very gentrified looking drinks.
Yo, the gentrification of alcohol is real. It's happening before our eyes.
Yeah, so it's definitely not that people are drinking less for sure. I just figured just because, you know, this is for like the cooler, more chill drinking person that there would be some fear. But we're eventually all gonna get older and they're gonna be drinking this anyway, so you're fine. Okay, so the emotional cost of being an entrepreneur. Was there ever a point that you just full on considered quitting? Like, and I don't know, your personality screams no, but you know, everyone's got their moments.
Honey, that 9 to 5 looks really good some days. Like the consistency, the stability, also the ability to clock out, right? The ability to be like, all right, going home now, going on vacation, and I'm out. Like I go on vacation, I still have to work. But I also get to control my schedule. So like if I decide to do all of that Monday instead of Sunday, I can, right? Like it depends. But there's also certain things that like, no, I have to deal with right now. Cause then it puts us in a bad position for other things. So, there's definitely pros and cons. The emotional toll can be really heavy. Not just me, but also sometimes my husband, because when I'm really stressed out, about something in particular, it definitely affects him. The schedule affects him, which also has an emotional toll, right? Like I work a lot on my weekends and that's his rest time. So now here he is at an event for Mother's Milk and he's kind of working. And so there's definitely an emotional toll. It is absolutely an emotional roller coaster. There are high highs. You get good news and it feels so good. It reminds you of why you're here and why you're doing this. And then you have, you know, days where like, damn, ain't not one thing go my way today.
Yeah.
Right. And it's mine to deal with. That's the difference. But no tea, no shade to anybody working for someone else or working a 9 to 5, because I can't tell you how often sometimes I'm like, oh, I miss that life a little bit, right? There's definitely that emotional tie between wanting that stability and that consistency. But then like, I also snap out of it because, you know, I was in corporate America for a short amount of time, for a few years. And I thought that my job was, you know, really stable and consistent and who I was working for. And then the company did an entire reorg and my boss and my entire department really didn't exist anymore and got put under an entire different part of the organization and left me in a position where it was like my role didn't exist anymore, right? And so it can look like that too in corporate America. The emotional toll is an absolute roller coaster, and we need to be very clear. Someone who doesn't have the wherewithal, there we go, to handle high highs and really low lows, should probably, you know, look at doing something else. Something that I learned very early on, which is, you know, capital and cash flow. And I didn't realize, you know, how often people, especially in alcohol, actually, just call their mom or their dad or their grandma or their grandpa or their husband or their godfather or whoever the hell it is, but they come from a circle of wealth. And so coming up with friends and family round of fundraising, coming up with the cash flow to, you know, pool together $1.5 million to launch the brand of the business comes really easy for some people. And they can, turn that around at the drop of a hat. And people just are like, here you go, take it, and invest in them and their dream or their idea or their concept. I don't come from that. I'm born and raised in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. My mom raised us practically alone. And so we didn't necessarily come from wealth or anyone around us that was an entrepreneur or had a lot of cash or money. That wasn't the community that I grew up in. So learning that is real, that like people just call somebody and like get people to write the checks. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So that's a whole nother form of privilege.
And that's why they're able to go all in. Like that's just, they have, a little safety net. They got daddy's money or whoever's. And something that I wanted to also point out is just that that's the stuff that you don't hear on social media. Like people, they love putting together like these infographics and these nice, cool videos where it's like, I started this business with this amount of money. And they'll vaguely say like, I pulled together this amount of money, not saying that it was just a few phone calls. They just say like, like they make you assume that they did what they had to do to get that money. And, like they say that and you don't know that behind the scenes that it was a lot easier than it looks. And it's just, there was something else. I get into the thought and then it leaves me every time. Oh my gosh. The videos acting as if,
Instagram versus reality.
Instagram versus reality.
It's real.
Yeah. Is it on my notes? No, it's not. Point is, you guys don't hear about that. And that's what it is. And then they convince people who don't have it like that. And then people start to think like, oh, it's so easy, or that I could just make a GoFundMe and I'm going to wake up with $100,000. And it's like, no, that's still chump change in comparison to what you actually need, because everyone ignores that you still need money to live. Like there's a whole, chunk of that money that is just for you to have dinner and for you to have breakfast and for you to live your regular life.
Pay your rent. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times what these people's businesses are making are not what's funding their life. A lot of times it's, whoever else they called for the other check that helps them survive. Like it's not as simple as it looks. And that's me. And I'm not even speaking for myself too much. I'm speaking more from just any other entrepreneur friend that I know. And they always say like, yeah, this person can say I make the blah, 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 this much in my business. And like 80% of that, or maybe even 90 can go to all the other moving parts in the business. Or if they want to expand it, like all that money, like you hear these big numbers, you hear numbers in the millions, that's chump change compared to like what they want the business to be. And anyone who believes in themselves, a lot of it goes right back into the business.
100%.
So
yeah, all the cash flow goes right back into the business. You have to recycle it until you can actually get to that place where it makes sense to pay yourself. Like I'm not paying myself out of my business. We're early on and we're not quite there yet, but I have goals to do that, by the end of this year. And we're on track to do that if all goes well.
Okay, so what is something that people get completely wrong about entrepreneurship, starting a business, that everyone thinks is true, and you look at them and you're like, oh, you know nothing?
I think we've touched on a lot of it throughout the course of this conversation, but I think the glitz, the glam, the fame, the attention, it all looks good on social media. All of that, like I keep saying this and I'm going to say it a lot this year, Instagram's not real. You guys know that, right? Like Instagram is not reality. And so I think that like, it just goes back to like what I was saying before is there's a lot of rejection. All you actually see are the wins. All you see are, the end. And what you don't see are the failures and what doesn't end up being successful. And transparently speaking, statistically speaking, most people aren't successful.
Yeah. Even with podcasts, I think like very small percentage of them make it past their 27th episode. And I remember when I hit number 27, I was like, okay, I'm already doing better than, whatever percentage of people who do this. And you just got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And back to what you said about just like authenticity and all that stuff, like especially on social media, it's, social media isn't real. However, you can still remain authentic to a certain degree. And it's always important to stay on that route just because like you said, you never know when your viral moment's going to be, and you would hate it if someone went on that viral video, photo, whatever, went to your page and was like, none of the rest of this looks like that. And then it like I hate when I see that on a business's page where they get a viral video. And I get it, you hop on the wave and you do what works, but if what worked is nothing like what you ever did before, cut it out. Like that's how I see it. Like, or if that's really, if you want to do a whole rebrand based on that, delete everything else and
Do it.
keep going from there.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Cause I think that's where you lose people. That's where like all the mistrust comes in because like I said, I've gone to businesses pages before and I'm like, I liked that one video, but you're not about this. So I don't trust anything anymore. I don't trust the quality of what you're selling. I don't trust the price. I'm like, especially because there's so many things online now that you can only buy it online, that it's only online. You're not going to find it at Target. You're not going to find it at your grocery store. You're not going to find it anywhere that you would typically find things. So social media holds so much weight. So the way that you communicate with your audiences is super important.
Yeah. No, and authenticity in CPG, consumer packaged goods, is super important. You think about the brands that have like recently been like bought, like Poppy, which is been a big acquisition in the beverage. And it's just, a husband and a wife who realized that what they were making at home should go to the market, and what they wanted to drink didn't exist. And they found a specific targeted space within the industry that was really missing and lacking, and they filled it. And they did it the entire time by leading with themselves. So I think that's just one of the big brand names that it's happened recently. But there's a lot of other brands that are really like leading the charge. My friend owns a coffee company, Win Coffee Supply, and she's like leading as the face, and it's, Vietnamese coffee and telling the entire story, single origin, and they roast it in Brooklyn. And so communicating your story and staying consistent with it. And also founders who are leading the charge and being the faces of their brand. I don't want to. Like, I really don't want to. I think that like this is fun and I enjoy this, but like I don't want to be the face of my brand. I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I have to. This is mine. And I also think that the days of alcohol brands being celebrity led is really coming to an end.
Yeah.
I know of brands who are not doing well because their celebrities did a big boo-boo. And I also know that people are recognizing that those brands are not feeling authentic.
Yeah.
And they're just feeling like a check.
I was thinking about that the other day about perfumes. Like how I don't have a bunch of like celebrity perfumes, and that's very gimmicky. It's like when you're in middle school, you get the Taylor Swift perfume, get the One Direction perfume, Justin Bieber one, but they're not like good fragrances.
No.
They're just like teeny bop, super floral, smells like hand candy sometimes. And I was looking at like my perfumes now, I'm like, whoa, like that's like a little sign of maturity. But it's also just because like, well, this is a quality product. This isn't just like something that was thrown at me because there's a cute little white pop star who, was like, oh, girls love me, so I'm just gonna give him a perfume. Like, and that's where like the authenticity comes in when when you trust the brand, when you trust that their purpose was to make this thing and not because it's a spin-off of all the million and one other types of merch that they sell. It's like, okay, I can do this. And I don't know if this is getting off topic, but that's one thing that I personally like. I lose trust in things when, and it's kind of happening now, like with makeup, how like everyone has a makeup brand. Or like,
relax, everyone.
Or if you don't, you have a skincare brand.
Everyone's got a skincare. Everyone's got a beauty brand. Everyone's got an alcohol brand.
Yeah.
It's literally one of those. Everyone's got an alcohol brand, or it's really out of control. And it goes back to exactly what I was just saying.
Yeah. And I think, especially now with just like how things are in the world, I think that things are leaning back on culture. Like if a product represents a culture specifically, the people within the culture, like, I hate to say it like this, but like real recognizes real kind of thing. Like where it's like, if like me being Puerto Rican, and if I understand certain things, like certain phrases, certain whatever, and we can even bring it back to like Bad Bunny in the Super Bowl. Like there are certain things that I get. There's certain things that were shown that I was like, you know what? Like I resonate with this. He feels like a genuine Puerto Rican. Not that he needs to prove himself because he did that a long time ago. But there are certain things where, you see that, and then you see like he shows the world that, and then you see that like your culture is being spread and it's being spread in the right way. And that's how you keep people. That's how you get people and that's how you keep people. And you can say that for products too. If you can relate, if you really feel as a consumer that you are putting money in the right person's pockets, this doesn't mean to say that you'll get something of lesser quality because of it, but you will gain a loyal customer base. And then if the product is great, even better, then you get more people. But I think that's really important when it comes to trust too.
Yeah, no, it's authenticity, it's consistency, and it's really like what I think is important to making a brand successful in 2026.
And now we have our last question.
Okay.
To close us out. So if someone who is listening doesn't come from money and feels discouraged, what would you tell them when it comes to starting up their own business? That they have this idea, they're not even like all the way into it yet, but they just have this thing that they're like, I don't know what it is, but I kind of feel called to do this thing.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
That's like your entrepreneur intuition kicking in. And I think that that's actually a real thing that really exists. There were definitely different signs and different things that were really pushing me to do this. And then I just didn't give up. But if I'm giving somebody advice, make sure that whatever you're doing is a standout. Make sure that it definitely is different. And then figure out workarounds. Right? Everyone doesn't have to do everything exactly the same. Give yourself a timeline, map it out. You don't have to do everything right now, right? You can set yourself with a 5-year goal, a 5-year plan. So that way you can actually give yourself the time, space, and energy to do it properly. And also like every industry requires, a different amount of funding. So, pay attention to that. I definitely, if I'm going back, I would definitely do things a bit differently than I had, but it's gotten me to here. So I'm really lucky. But I've learned a lot along the way. And like eventually my goal is to also open up other businesses. I already have my ideas for those things of what I want to do. So if I'm giving somebody advice and they have this idea, one, follow your entrepreneurial intuition. Don't give up. And you never accept no for an answer. You can figure it out. It just may not look the way you want it to look. It may not happen in the time that you want it to happen. But you just have to push forward, and like, it doesn't matter whether you have been an entrepreneur for 5 minutes or 5 years. That concept of like always having to push forward and pivot and figure out a new way to do things, that never changes, that never dies. So make sure that your item is a standout. Make sure it's different. It's not something that other people are doing. And then just figure out ways to do it, even if it's unconventional and untraditional. You can definitely do it.
Couldn't have said it better than myself. Okay, well, thank you for coming on.
Yes.
Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and give 5 stars if your listening platform allows for you to do so.
Yes.
I think that is all I have for you guys today, and I will see you guys next week. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.